All right, good morning, everyone. For the ones that joined a bit later, welcome to Berlin Dance Music event. Welcome to the Toolroom Academy X Voltage Circus Academy area that we're hosting here. I guess for some of you, it's the third day of going to this conference. I know it's gets a bit tiring at some point, but great that you made it to come here that early. In our next panel, we'll talk about how to build your online audience. And I want to make a quick introduction to this panel by referring to a report that we've done. I'm holding this one here. It's a research report that Toolroom Academy did, when was it? A few weeks ago?
Yeah, the research was at the end of last year, and we published it a couple of weeks ago.
And we did some qualitative research where we interviewed some industry experts. We also interviewed a bunch of up-and-coming artists, and we found out some interesting pieces. Specifically, we found out that audience growth, so building your own audience, and social media strategy are the two biggest challenges faced by electronic music artists. And in this panel, we want to unpack a bit more this topic, and for this, we've brought three true experts to this field. Miles, I'll start with you. Miles, all the way to your right side, is the COO of Toolroom and Toolroom Academy. Next to Miles, we have Michael from Magnify. Magnify is a music management and music marketing agency. They look after artists like Martin Horger, Klangphonics, XI83. With the agency, you do ticket marketing for a bunch of festivals and loads more. And next to me, we have Grahame from Data Transmission.
Hello.
Data Transmission is an online media. You do so many things. You have a label. You have a
Radio station.
And
I'm an educator in social media as well.
All right, cool. So, starting with the first question, let's start with the why. Why should new artists see building an audience as their top priority in 2024? Grahame.
Me? What? Sorry, go. Sorry, I wasn't. Sorry.
So why should...
Sorry. I was expecting to go there. Go on, sorry.
Why should new artists see building an online audience as priority in 2024?
It's imperative. Like, building your audience is going to help you sell your music. It's going to help you build your... get people to come to your gigs. It's part and parcel. Like, you need to have a fan base, and you're building your online audience is your fan base. So essentially, they're people that are going to come and see you speak or come and watch you play and stream your music. So building that online fan base, it kind of comes along in line with making the music and learning to DJ. It's all a part of them, part and parcel.
Yeah. I saw this TikTok video a couple of weeks ago, went viral, and it was this video. I don't know if it came over here, but it was a video of this band waiting to see if they're going to get signed by an A&R manager, and they kind of videoed the phone call from the A&R manager, and he said, "Look, I'd love to sign you. You love your music, love everything you stand for, but you don't have 50,000 TikTok followers, so I'm not allowed to sign you." And I think that video went viral as an indictment of the music industry now. I think in terms of how you need that online audience in order to actually truly break through. I think it's probably a bit different in electronic, thankfully. I think because there's more independence and you get signed more on single song deals than longer term deals. But I think that, and speaking on behalf of Toolroom, like, we'd never make a creative decision signing an artist based on the size of their online audience. But from your guys' perspective, I do think if you have an online audience, that's power. You know, that's eliminating risk for you, because you become less reliant on labels and you become less reliant on promoters. You know, you have agency in your career if you have an online audience.
Yeah, we had it the same. I sent a load of music to a big label for electronic music, and they had no online audience, no following. And I kind of pitched the label and pitched the music, and they loved the music, and they were like, "Well, what's the artist about? What they're about? What they look like? What they And I was like, okay, we'll come back. But yeah, well, as you said, in electronics, it's a bit easy because you can kind of, as you're going to speak about later with label ladders, you can step up and kind of build into labels and build with smaller labels first and build your audience around those smaller labels. And I think when you start doing that, I always think you're pulling for audience from different people. Like, when you start releasing records, you can pull a little bit of audience from here. When you start putting DJ videos up, you build an audience around that people that like similar music to you. And always there's like two two groups of fan base when it comes to DJs and producers. Like, there's other producers that might buy your music, but there's also fans that are going to come to your shows and come to and watch you play. So it's kind of building those two little bits of audience that, one, people that are going to your peers, but also just the general fan. And then you can do that across different platforms.
Michael,
Yeah. I actually think it's a beautiful thing to be able to build your audience online, because it gives you the possibility to build your career like independent. We heard all the stories of labels only signing artists when they have a certain number of followers. But I mean, in the big picture, you will need an audience to sell stuff to, you know. And at the end of the day, you want to make money with what you're doing, with your creativity. And on the other side of making money will be people that are willing to give you the money for whatever you are doing. So building an online audience allows you to do this independently and get like rid of the gatekeeper that controlled the whole music industry for like the past, like, I don't know, 50 years or so. So
yeah, I mean, it's just marketing, right? So at the end of the day, everyone's done marketing. Like, Carl Cox built his career because he built a sound system and he drove it around to different places, and that was his marketing, and that's how he built his fan base. I remember when we used to go clubbing, there was always people outside the club at 5 a.m. handing out CDs, and that was them building an audience, because they would be there every week handing out their new mix CD. But standing in the rain at 5 a.m., right, you don't have to do that now. You just upload a mix to SoundCloud and build it with an online audience. So it's a bit easier, and it's a bit route to market's a bit easier.
Yeah, for sure. The whole logistical aspect is decreased, you know, like the effort you have to take to drive your sound system around.
Yeah. Even like selling vinyl, like you had to go and print the vinyl, take it to all the record stores, collect all. Like it's just a lot easier to do it, but then there's more people trying to do it. So being more original and making kind of cut through the noise is harder. But you can, like, I don't know how many people have seen that guy Fish 56 Octagon, stands around in his dressing gown making content. He's built a mad audience because he plays records that he loves and goes, this is a record I absolutely love. Now let's listen to it. But he stood around in his dressing gown. Yeah. And you can just do it from home in a dressing gown with some vinyl. Like, it's a lot easier. Yeah.
I mean, you still have to tell a story of what you're doing, you know? Like what you said, in the early days, the guys were able to tell stories and get in touch with people, and it's still, in my opinion, all about getting in direct contact with the people. You know, when you're standing in front of a club, you build a direct connection.
Yeah.
And I think you should see this as an advantage to be able to build like direct connections via DMs or comments, whatever, in a decentralized way, with the tools that online marketing gives us.
Yeah, you're building community at the end of the day. Like that's you, when you're out there, you're building that one-to-one community.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. One-on-one connection, interaction is the key for me. Like, to build an audience.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, if you build one new fan every day.
Yeah.
If you build one new fan every day of the year, then you've got. If you did that, if you built 3 new fans every day of the year, you'd have 1,000 new fans at the end of the year. And by doing that, just going one-to-one with someone every day. Like, if you got someone new follow every day, just message them and go, hi, I'm Grahame, how you doing? And you did that with 3 new people every day. That's not too hard. 3 new people every day is not too hard. And you build that like little one-to-one connection via DMs maybe, and then that fan base grows, and then they're the first ones to listen to your records, you know. You can do that so well on things like SoundCloud, where you just message them and go, oh, I've got a new single out. Thank you for being a follower. Thank you for being my most engaged follower. I've got a new single out. Here it is, go and listen to it now before everyone else, you know?
Yeah.
But what do you think, like, what platforms should people focus on, though? Because that's the challenge, I think. You could, there's so many different ones to focus on.
Depends on your goals, right? What are you trying to achieve? If you want to DJ, then YouTube. A new mix every couple of weeks on YouTube with the right titles, you can grow a massive audience. We've seen it with the Flavor Trip guys that were on your course, or on my course. They put 33 videos up over 22 months, 24 months. They've got 500,000 subscribers, and it's just them DJing. And they're now playing festivals, and they're now getting gigs. Depends on if that's you want to DJ, then it's there. But if it's about sort of building an audience of fan base, then maybe SoundCloud's a great platform for new artists, especially really new artists, because it's a low barrier and there's a great audience on SoundCloud. Like, last 5 years of SoundCloud growth has been mental. Like, it's back to the kind of old 2012 versions of SoundCloud, where you can upload music, you can upload clips, and you get response, you get feedback, the algorithm pushes you more. You know, I think video platforms like Instagram's still king. The new algorithms changes this summer will take it to a new level again. It will open it up and wider for new creators.
I think from my experience, I work with a lot of new artists. It's quite daunting, the amount of platforms, and if you were to try and make native content for every single one, I think you'd go slightly mad. I mean, even at Toolroom, we have, at the size and scale of the business we still focus our efforts on certain platforms because we know they're going to drive our business more. And I think a good way of framing it is think about, first of all, who your audience is, who's your intended audience. Can you picture them? What age are they? What do they look like? Where do they go? And think about aiming your content on that particular platform. Also, a good way of looking at it is think of your target artists. What artists do you want to be in the orbit of? Where do they channel their efforts? If you look at Hot Since 82, for example, I'd wager he probably puts most of his effort into Instagram because that's where his fan base is. And that's the type of content I think he feels comfortable making. It's a bit more curated, a bit more visual. So I think aim at what kind of feels natural to you, how you can get your personality across. Think about where your audience might be and think about where your target artists are also spending their time. It's a good way of helping you choose which channels to focus on.
Yeah, I think do one really well. I always say to all my students, just do one thing really, really well and spend all your time learning that one platform. So whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, and if you just spend all your time, firstly consuming all the content that's working, understand what's trending, what's working, what's the lengths of content. Pete was saying, when you break down a track, when you put a track into a DAW and use it as a reference track, I do that with content. I'll drag down a piece of content and look at the points of what's happening at 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and really reference a piece of content and understand what's working on that platform and use all the features of the platform. And if you do that well, then everything kind of else ticks along nicely, kind of other things open up for you. But doing one well is definitely key.
Yeah, I would suggest to start with the platform you are on, with the one you are using, and start with analyzing your own consumer behavior on the platform.
Yeah, 100%.
And see what works for you. What kind of content are you consuming, and look into why you are consuming that content. What is the value this content is delivering to you, and then start sharing your own stuff on the platform.
Yeah, I agree. The one you like, the one that you resonate with. Yeah. It makes it easier for you as well.
Yeah, that's also the thing with consistency. I mean, I think most of the up-and-coming artists are struggling to be consistent, so you have to lower the barrier and just be on the platform.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's always a question: how often should I post a week? Right? If one post a week is achievable and it's healthy for you to post one a week, then post one a week every week. Instead of doing 5 in 1 week and nothing for 3 weeks, then you'll have consistency. If then 2 posts a week is healthy for you and it keeps it cool, then 2 posts a week it is. Don't try and get to 10, 20. Data transmission, we can do 7 a day, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay for us because we have a team, but don't try and emulate that. Just try and do one really, really good one and keep it healthy for you.
I think consistency in content creation in general is just a skill you have to develop. You can't start with going from 0 posts per week to 10 posts a week. You have to
100%.
develop the skill.
100%. I think like the gym. You you go to the gym, you don't start with muscles. You don't start and be able to run a marathon. You kind of have to sweat and run a minute and then die. And the same with making content. Same with making records. You just kind of keep turning up and keep turning up and keep doing it. And I always your first post is always shit. Like everything, your first record's shit. Your first post is shit. When you go live, you're terrible. And everyone sort of just says, I'm not going to do it because I want it to be great, but it's never going to be. So just start doing it and make something and then review it. And with analytics now, you can kind of go, well, the watch time was good, but the watch time was good to sort of that point.
Yeah.
And then it dropped and everyone dropped off then. Okay, well, why did they drop off? Oh, because I rambled too long or I said too much or I just kind of got the vibe of the track if it's a record playing, right? The drop happened, I'd swipe then and just understand why that is and then make it short for next time.
Can I jump in there quickly? So we've spoken about the amount of times that you should post, 1 time per week, 2 times a week, whatever. But a lot of up-and-coming artists, they have the challenge. They decide they want to post, let's say 1 or twice a week, but they don't really know what to post. So just considering you were a new artist, you're starting a new brand today, what would be the first 3 things that you would focus on, and what kind of content would you post, and how did you get to this point where you actually know what kind of content do I want to post?
I always think that's easy. I always think for social media content, it's easy. It's like you and your knowledge plus some music, and that equals your content because it's different. Your musical knowledge is different to mine and yours and whoever your artist you are. But by talking about music you love and records you love, then you're going to find people that like the same music as you.
Yeah.
And as you do that, the algorithm will go, right, these people liked it, they interacted with it, they thought it was cool, they commented. Well, let's go and find more people like that. And the kind of algorithm does it for you.
Agreed. I think another way of framing it, and this is friend of mine coined this, is like when you're building your brand as an artist from scratch, it's about finding one small thing and like owning it and making that yours. So to give examples, like it could be a visual thing like Kolsch and the hat, or it could be to do with your cultural taste, Peggy Goo, fashion. It could be a studio bass like East End dubs, modular synthesis, or it could be just tone of voice. It could be like maybe you're more reflective about your journey, or you share memes, or maybe you've got a dry sense of humor. But it's truly owning something, and that's when I think you cut through a bit more and you put your head above other artists. When you just have that one little hook, much like making music, you've got to find that hook that people can latch onto. I think that's the challenge when building a brand.
Yeah. Michael, how do you do this with your artists, with the agency? Because you also have a very strong marketing focus. Do you actively support them, or you just let them do their thing, or how does it work with the specific artists? Maybe you can give some examples there.
This highly depends on the artist and what the artist is good at. And I think this is basically the point you were making. So every artist has a different focus and a different approach in his art, and is focusing on has different strengths. I was thinking about that. Coming back to your first question, I think you have to find your personal strength and double down on that, and starting with developing a reason why people should follow you in the first place. Why should they give you their attention? And big challenge in artist management is helping the artists to find their strength and help them doubling down on their strength and communicating their strength. For example, we have recently signed the Klangphonics. It's an organic techno band, we call it, because we actually don't know which genre they're in. But they have a very interesting social media strategy. I mean, they post like once or twice a month, but we have a success rate of 80% of going viral with them. With viral, I mean like millions of views, because they just have figured out what they want to do and how they want to do it. So, a bit of context, it's a band consisting of 3 people, and they play like real instruments. So, they produce like a small, a short clip where they play like funny instruments or like crazy stuff on a I don't know if you know Alphorn. Yeah, have you ever heard of Alphorn? But they will just make a clip with Alphorn where one guy is playing this thing, and we have the drummer on the right side and the guitarist playing a ukulele on the left side, and they all go viral. And the point I'm trying to make is they found their strength, in like being like multi-instrumentalists and playing like real instruments. They found what they are good at and double down on their strength. And then it's not important if they post every week or twice a week. When they have their strength and they put in the work, because it's always takes like a few days to make a video, but that's what they're good at.
Sounds super visual and super entertaining. So
yeah, we can go into details, but yeah.
Yeah, just from even hearing it, it sounds really, really visual, really, really entertaining. It's got a really, really cool hook. You can sort of, without even looking at it, kind of go, well, I can see why that's gone viral, because it's got kind of the big makeups of any great piece of content.
Grahame, I think from all of us, you spend the most time on figuring out the algorithm. What would you say are like the current trends of the algorithm? Besides, like we've heard one example that works really well, what other kind of content formats are there? Is it more video? Is it more a photo? What kind of suggestions do you have?
I always think with the algorithm, it's people at the back behind it. So if you think, when you're thinking, everyone thinks, oh, the algorithm hates me, or the algorithm doesn't like this, or it doesn't like my piece of content. Well, usually, if you look at that piece of content, it's usually pretty shit and pretty boring. And that's why the algorithm hated it, because actually people didn't like looking at it. We were saying here, just from hearing what that's hearing, I want to watch that piece of content because it sounds, like I said, super visual, super entertaining. So the algorithm will then push it to more people because the first people that saw it went, well, that's really fun and really cool. I'll share it with a load of my mates, or I'll comment on it, or I'll like it. So as long as it's doing that, then it doesn't really matter if it's a picture, or if it's a carousel, whether it's a reel. It's just what is in it that's got a hook. What is in it that's interesting? Are people going to like it? If it's a flyer, are they in the same town, city, or even country as where you're playing? Well, if they're not, then they're going to swipe because they're not interested in it. If it's fun and entertaining or educational, then people might be interested. But reels work, carousels really work. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think another way of looking at it is like understanding algorithms is just like fundamentally understanding the nature of human attention spans, which are getting smaller and smaller because we're bombarded with information and content at all times. And essentially algorithms reward the amount of time spent on content.
Yeah, watch time is high.
Watch time. And trends have been obviously video, and then short form video. So I still think essentially to break through as an artist and build an audience, you do need to know how to make short form video, and you need to know how to make reels. And we've actually got a session on that later, haven't we? And yeah, I'd say there's a big return of static as well. Carousel posts are doing really well for us. And the great thing about carousel posts, I think, is it's a great opportunity to do storytelling. I think Toolroom, we do that pretty well. Defector do it quite well, where you can tell a story of an artist or a release over time. And I quite like carousel posts personally because you have the power then to sort of spend as much time or not on that piece of content. So I think learning to do carousel posts well is also another good skill you guys could master to build your audience.
Yeah, I agree. I love reading carousel posts. My assistant, Loseka, he just did a release and he had it played on Radio 1 and he put a post up and he was like, this is how it literally told the story through the carousel. First it did this, but then you could read the words on screen. Then it did this, then this happened, then this happened. Then it got played by Ariel 3 on Radio 1. And this is the result of me jumping around the room, listening to it on Radio 1. And you get invested by swiping through the carousel and enjoying the kind of moment of his success a little bit, but he's sort of telling how it happened through that story.
Yeah, I just want to maybe add the idea of the pattern interrupt in like having successful content. I mean, there's always this trend with short form and stuff like that, but at a peak of a trend, people get used to it. And when you then throw in like a carousel, which interrupts the pattern, automatically catches the attention, and you will have the watch time because the people are not used to it and want to see what's going on there. So in a way, you have to think and act like anti-cyclistic. I don't know which is the English term, but in like
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's right.
It's good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you have to just like you're saying about watch time. Watch time's so important. How long is people staying on a piece of content and understand how much watch time you've had? We do it with my YouTube, like where are people dropping off, where people get bored of watching content. And then that metric then can then advise the next piece of content. You learn from the metric of how long people are staying and how people are consuming. A video, like say, short form content is important because that's what we all like watching. We all like sit there watching. That's why it's important.
And talk about how people consume now. I think what's interesting and what's changing is what's called perfection fatigue, which is this trend that people are bored of perfect-looking content, particularly Gen Z, because they've been bombarded all their lives with online marketing, and they have this almost natural filter for something that looks forced or too polished. And so what's cutting through now is much more organic and authentic and raw content.
Oh my God, I watched a video on YouTube. There's drum and bass act. He's a kid, he's 11. And anyone that says, oh, I can't put a mix online, I can't make a YouTube video because I don't have the right kit or I don't have the right, he's got a DJM 200 He uses the Beatport web app at the top. His bed wasn't even made in the background. Halfway through the video, his mum come in and just sort of shouted through the door. But it's had 250,000 views because it was a banging D&B mix. Like, it pumped, and every mix was really, really great. And everyone's commenting, and his channel grew by 10,000 people just because it's just a great mix and a great piece of content. But it was raw completely.
Yeah.
And all the videos after are raw and raw and raw. But then Pioneer reached out and gave him a new mixer, and it kind of upgraded along the way. But yeah, that one it was so basic, and you think it wouldn't. But anyone that says I can't make a DJ mix, you can quite easily.
And he just started, like, coming back to the point we made earlier, like developing the skill, developing
Yeah.
consistency. He just started, he just did it.
Yeah, 100%. But also the pandemic allowed you to be more raw. Like, it allowed, because everyone was at home, so it allowed that. Like, before pandemic, everything was really polished and a little bit horrible as well. Like, it was a little bit unattainable. But now, because you've been at home and you had to make content at home, well, that allowed everything to be a bit more raw and a bit more free, you know?
I think it's something as well I've learned that producers, because I don't know many people in this room produce music, but we work with a lot of producers, and I find that it's almost wrong that you spend so much time making your music and it's so polished and so beautiful and perfect, and then it doesn't feel right to bring it to market. You make something deliberately DIY and almost less. And it's something we've had to kind of get our heads around at Toolroom as well, because we had a big Miami party this year, and we had a proper videographer shoot an after movie, and just tells a story over time. Wristbands come on leading up to the big moment, and beautifully shot. Put it out, no engagement at all. Whereas some random took a phone video behind Mark when he was DJing, and that got 5,000 likes. It's you got to get your head around it, because I know a lot of people who are producers are very type A, very perfectionist. But it's just another skill to learn to kind of depolish your content.
Yeah, I spoke in Brighton earlier in the week, and one of the people on my panel was a videographer, and he was saying that James Hype hires someone just to follow him around with an iPhone. Like, that's all his job is to make content on an iPhone, because that's what stuff does better.
So good point that some artists are already hiring people to just follow them around to take videos. Another idea that artists sometimes have is to work with marketing agencies, especially we being a marketing agency, Michael being a marketing agency. We get approached quite frequently from up-and-coming artists asking us if we can do their social media for them because they're just tired of doing it, they don't want to do it. What's your advice on up-and-coming artists on working with a social media agency right from the start?
I can see both sides. I guess your brand is so intrinsic to you. I struggle to see how someone can do it for you as well. I mean, even at Toolroom, which is not an artist, it's a brand, so it's less personal by definition. Whenever we've outsourced our social media to agencies, it just sort of, there's a disconnect. It just doesn't quite feel real and authentic. So I really believe in the power of education. I believe learning changes lives. That's why we set up the Toolroom Academy. I think there's great programs out there where you can learn and empower yourself. We've got a course we're talking about later. Grahame's got a great course. There's loads of stuff online as well that's free. I'd really recommend you learn yourself and empower yourself. And then when you get to the right size as an artist, maybe you outsource the more technical stuff like ad spend or scheduling, all the kind of annoying stuff. But I think definitely own it yourself first. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I agree. I think with anything, once you've learned it yourself, then you can advise the people to do it for you better. Like, you know what you want, and because you've been it and you've grown it. But I also get the other side where it's like it's a pain for a lot of people, and if you have the budget, then but yeah, you can't. I don't feel like you can do it yourself. I couldn't give mine over. Like with Data Transmission, they're a bit more of their brand, but I still think as Data Transmission, as a person, I give them a person. Like, they are me as 28. They would have been the person sat outside the club at 7 o'clock and drinking a tequila shot and then kind of going back in. And that's how I think of Data Transmission. And that's the content I kind of look for when I'm putting that content out, because I have a person in mind for them.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. It doesn't make sense to outsource the creative process and the creative thoughts around your brand. Like you said, you can outsource the technical stuff when you're super busy, but it doesn't make sense to outsource the creative process, especially when you start. I mean, you have to tell a story, and you have to be aware that social media still is your main tool tell your story to your audience and to the world. So you can't outsource that. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and all those like little moments, like I was saying with Loz the other minute, he had this play on Radio 1. He had 2 in a week, and he literally was jumping around the office. He was so hyped about it, and if he didn't share that moment on social media, then and someone did it for him, it wouldn't have cut through as much, because he literally, like, as naturally you would be, you're buzzing. He's got a Radio 1 play, right? So that comes through the emotion and through the content, because he's recorded it in such a way that tells that story well.
I feel like with content creation in general, or social media in general, a lot of up-and-coming artists, they're a bit afraid of doing something wrong, you know, and that's why they're kind of like in the head, they're stuck. They're like, okay, I want to do something, but I'm just too afraid of, you know, messing it up. I don't know where to start. What would you guys say are the common mistakes that DJs and producers should avoid when trying to grow their own audience?
I think posting the wrong content on the wrong type of part of the platform can be detrimental. Like, everyone thinks you have to post reels, and then puts content that doesn't fit in that space, because then it flops, and then you get demoralized because it hasn't done the numbers you want. Also, then you think, if you're not getting the results you want to get, but you are getting, understand what results you are getting. Like, if you're getting only a few hundred video plays, but you've only got a few hundred fans, but that's actually good, because you're hitting a lot of your audience. And if you're getting more than that, then great. That's 200% of what you've got, sort of thing. And then building on that and going, right, it's not about one post, it's about the consistency of posting, and it's about the consistency of turning up and doing it. And the overall plan is the lots of numbers, because you might hit different people along different pieces of content, and you might get new fans along different pieces of content. You never know who's watching, and you could have 4 views, but those 4 could be the right people, the right record label that just get with everything you've done along the way.
Yeah, definitely. I think common mistakes that I've learned, I think there's a tendency, I think, of sometimes having a mentality of like, if I build it, they will come, and just thinking that, you know, you launch something and people will come flooding to you. I think you have to engage yourself and get your hands dirty and get commenting, get liking, get involved. It's and then you'll be more visible that way, firstly, but secondly, you'll build this kind of micro network of, you know, colleagues and sort of people on your level that will support you too. So I think that's a common mistake that I see, that kind of expectation that people will come to you. Also, I'd say broadcasting rather than storytelling, I think, is a common mistake people make. I think social media isn't about just shouting out there. It's a human connection. So contextualizing the why of why you're doing things, the storytelling is so important. I think that's really key. And then thirdly, common mistake, just don't be beige. As I said earlier, like, find that hook, find that like one thing that you truly own, and just really own that to really cut through.
Yeah, the posting and ghosting thing is a big thing. Like, literally just post and disappear. Like, you have to be on using the platform. Like we were saying right at the start, you're using the one you love using because you're in it. And by connecting with people and, you know, being social on the network, that's how you're going to grow, because you're using DMs, you're talking to other people. And then because you're talking to other people, then the platform will go, these two must be friends. Let's show each other content, them each other's content. And then that kind of helps your content grow by being active.
Yeah, I completely agree. Biggest mistake is not engaging on a platform. Go in the comment section, react to every comment, go into the DMs, engage, and show genuine interest in the people that are looking at your stuff. So,
it's like a negative comment as well, when someone's like posting something horrible, and you bait them a little bit to just kind of go a bit more, because you know it's going to push your content out there, and they're actually helping you find more people by being an idiot. But you kind of go, why don't you like that? Why don't you like? What have I done wrong? And you're trying to just also find out what they don't like as well. Kind of go use a kind of audience analysis a little bit, but also you know it's pushing them out there by them being a little bit wound up that you're not doing what they want you to do, basically.
Yeah, everything is a response. I mean, when you get no engagement and no views, and you're maybe you have to learn that your content just sucks and you're doing stuff that nobody is caring about. So take that as a lesson, and if you get negative feedback, take that as a lesson, and if you get positive feedback, take that as a lesson, and start to learn and get better.
Yeah, as I said earlier, like if the content's not reaching, then it's probably the content.
Yeah.
People just don't like it.
So we're getting slowly to the end of this session. We've spoken a lot of theoretical topics. I want to get a bit more practical now and get your advice on how would you use social media to promote a release that's coming out. So let's think in 2 weeks we have a release coming out. What would be your things that you do on social media to promote this release?
Tell the people why they should care about your release. Like, what's the story behind? What story do you want to tell with your release?
But then would you sit in the studio and just like say something, or what kind of content formats would you produce, or would you advise to produce?
I like a time lapse. Because they're easy. Like you can put the camera to your side, time lapse yourself, essentially making the track, essentially just moving the mouse around and moving things on the screen. But because it's time lapse, it goes really, really fast and you can't really tell. And then you can just put words on screen and you kind of explain the story behind the track with a really short piece of content, and you have the track playing, and it kind of works really, really nicely.
Do you think that, because I remember a couple of years ago we were at a conference when you were talking about like pack shot videos and things like that, where do you think they sit at the moment? Because we're finding that kind of graphic stuff isn't working for us so much.
Yeah, it doesn't work as well. I don't think, but then it can do on a carousel. Like it's the right piece of content on the right part of the platform. I still think obviously the big DJ video is still going to work, and like I think, 16 weeks before the release, I would have probably tried and got that out to a load of DJs. And always everyone goes for the top. Must be have Mark playing it. It must be a Mark Knight video of my track being played, right? Well, you're not going to get that as much as often, but you might get on row 2 or row 3 of the lineup who are still playing to a big audience, and by hitting that person who are still playing the right music for you, then you might get a video because they're more likely to have want that exclusive track that you've sent them 16 weeks before release.
Yeah, I think another observation for me, obviously working the record label, is campaigns are getting longer for releases, because if you were to frame success of a release by streaming, Spotify will probably take quite a long time to kind of recognize and support a record. Like we have releases that were dropped 6 months ago that Spotify suddenly randomly put in a big playlist, and so you should kind of. I think a few years ago, campaigns were like 8 weeks long, 12 weeks long, and now you've got to sort of dig in and play the longer game, I think.
Oh yeah, for our labels that are smaller, I start I put a 1 minute clip on SoundCloud 4 weeks before release, and I'll build that 1 minute clip on SoundCloud by just messaging people that have been our active fans on SoundCloud and say, here, we've got a new single, have a go and listen to it, and send lots of my social media traffic to my SoundCloud, and then release day I'll replace the audio, because I know that SoundCloud, the app, will then go and notify everyone that's listened to that track and say, the audio's changed, you should go and listen to it again. And that then drives more reach for that track.
Yeah, and I think similarly, we have a kind of basic campaign structure that's like awareness, action, advocacy. So awareness is just building hype on a record. Type of content then might be more how I made it, like studio-based stuff. The action phase is when you're trying to drive that commercial hit when it's out. So that might be more salesy content. A couple of years ago, probably more graphical. You might need to switch that up now. And then advocacy is getting that more people talking about it, more people playing it. So DJ support really comes in then. It's a really good DJ program. I can't stress enough, if you're trying to sell music now and make content, having other DJs play it and having really good clips of that is really what's selling it for us at the moment.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the live video. Like we get really good live stream people playing it. We've got a really good network of live streamers that we know play to 200, 300 people, but they're super active, and then we'll get those clips because they're really easy to get because you just watch them and clip them. Like they're really good for us.
All right. Yeah, getting to the end here, and before we move on to a quick Q&A sessions, I want to ask all of you to name one artist where you felt like this artist really has grown the audience from scratch to X amount of followers recently.
Klangphonics.
Ooh. Miles?
Cruci, he's a Toolroom artist who we love. I'd say he's grown quickly from scratch. Why? Because just relentless, I think, is a quality. just relentless, wrings every possible opportunity out of everything he does. If he's got a gig, you know there's going to be some great stories on the journey to the gig. Once he's played, there's going to be a really good reel immediately afterwards of it going off. Then post-gig, there's going to be teasers for the mix, which he's recorded, and then it's going to be a SoundCloud mix. He's just ringing every single opportunity. So I think the learning there is be relentless, and I think you can cut through.
Let's go. I really like Hannah Lang. She has great content. You can tell she also doesn't like making content, so it's quite funny that she kind of plays into that a little bit. But like everything has a great content. As you know, there's lots of clips, lots of carousels, lots of reels, lots of storytelling, and she's growing really, really fast and playing big shows now because it's continuous.
All right, thanks, guys. I guess we'll have a few more minutes of Q&As. Are there any questions of you guys for the experts up here? Yeah, I'll come to you.
Hello. So I noticed that when I try to, I don't know, post a video of me DJing or me at a gig, I used to over-edit this kind of content because I had the feeling that it's not, I don't know, exciting enough, or it's not happening enough because it's only a drop or something. So do you maybe have a tip to make the content look more organic, but in some way also interesting without big editing and stuff?
I was recording the question, sorry. Do you know sometimes about lighting? Like, you know when you're recording, sometimes it's about the recording. Like, if you add just a little bit of lighting, then it makes it pop a little bit. Like I have this really tiny little light that just attaches to my phone, but it just, if you set it not super, super bright, just like literally 10% extra light, it just makes you pop out a little bit better, and therefore you look more visual, it looks clearer. But then also just like test its length. Like I rerun content all the time. Like I'll run it at 30 seconds, but then if it's, again, like watch where the watch time is, watch where people drop off, and then edit it shorter, and then try it 3 months later because people have forgotten it, and then see if it does better that time because it's just where it pops a little bit better.
I can't beat that advice, but I'd say in general, stepping back, people quite like seeing the journey. Like, so you don't have to put yourself under pressure to make everything look massive. Like, people, as I say, like to see the growth. So if you're perhaps more towards the beginning, middle of your DJ career, that's okay. Just show it real, show it as it is. And as you grow naturally, people will buy into that journey with you. So that's kind of more stepping back as a kind of strategy. It's okay to show the growth.
Yeah, just one more thing to add. I mean, there's the technical stuff with the lighting and the sound, which is very important. But I mean, look at your content and see if there's actually emotion in it. You know, is there some emotional transfer of whatever you are doing?
Yeah, when you're filming, again, don't film behind your head because there's no emotion back here. Like, just film to the side so you can at least literally see what's happening with your face, because then people react to your face. And if you're kind of buzzing, you're in this great mix, then people watching it are going to enjoy that as well.
All right, we have time for one more question. I see one over there. 3 questions. Okay, if you do it quick, then we do all of them. Yeah, you were first.
Hello. Yeah. I think it's great that to use Instagram as a tool to like grow your career, but as a Berlin DJ, I find this a little bit challenging because we are not allowed to record in clubs, and this is one. I mean, I like it because people are dancing, and it's better. But then we're compared to other artists that don't live in Germany, it's like it looks like I don't play in so many clubs, but actually I am. I just don't have content for it.
Do you know, I had this. I had one of my students. He again had the same problem. He plays techno. He plays in Denmark, and we were like, well, firstly, can you document the bit before you play in the club? Can you document the emotion after you played in the club? We were even like, can you do something that's a bit out there and do a hand drawings, like, you know, like when you're in the court drawings where it's like they're all pencil sketch drawings, and it's just like, can you make a hand drawn series of of what happened in the club? Because then it's like that cut through kind of moment where it's just like people are going wild, and it becomes this like little sketch thing that you've done after of my night that's just you differently, and just trying to visualize what happened without being out there, you know.
Exactly that. Do they allow photography, or is photography allowed?
No phones on the floor.
Nothing.
No.
So I was going to say that's where the carousel comes in and you tell the story. But another thing would be just maybe pivot to making your own mixes in interesting locations and filming them. Like, you can own that. I've got a colleague that's doing that at the moment, works for Toolroom, who's making good DJ mixes in different locations. So that's something, if you love the art of DJing and you can really show that and you want to show that, maybe pivot to that and see if you can do that.
The other one is like, these are the records I played last night. Like you can, there's a really good web app, it's called Clipper, it's a KLIPPR, and you can download Beatport links and turn them into little videos. It's really cool. So you can take the photo outside and the carousel can be then, these are the 5 records I played last night that was in my set, so you can experience it. I know you weren't allowed to be there, but here's the records I played.
So bottom line, you're saying just be creative, and you know, if you can't do a certain thing, if you can't show a certain moment, just be creative to replace this with something else. Cool. You guys, I think you also had questions.
My question is this: you've been talking a lot about the importance of building a community, so building fans, which is, I think, it's very important. What are some examples of content for DJs being able to create a deeper relationship with their audience? Because I think there's a difference between being a listener and being a fan of, for example, my favorite DJ. And what do you think are some examples of content that DJs can create to be able to create that deeper relationship online or on social media? Thank you.
That's such a great question. And it's actually the future of growth of the music industry is to do with fandom and super fans. That's how all the majors are investing in new tech that basically wrings more out of people who love certain artists and creating a tier of people that pay more, essentially, for more personal content from artists.
I think the WhatsApp groups work really well.
Agreed.
I think, like, I have a Discord, and our Discord is absolutely amazing for us. Like, meeting up my Discord members this week, and like I live stream from my shed in my garden, so all our Discords are shed heads, and essentially we have our own brand merch for shed heads. We had our own official day that we made up just for shits and giggles. Like, but it's that kind of like, we're in there and everyone's in there helping each other grow. Yeah. But there are really good, like Ariel Free's got a really good WhatsApp group that she gets to go deeper just because you're messaging each other back, and she's in there sort of talking to her fans.
Yeah, I think the content gives you the exposure, but you build a fan base in the interaction, you know? So, like we said earlier, you have to do content that works for you to get exposure on your projects, but when you're thinking about building relationships and building super fans and stuff like that, you have to get into the interaction with them, you know? They have to get to know you. I think James Hype did this too during COVID.
Yeah, he does it really well. He's got a Discord that again absolutely pops, and he's in there all the time talking with his fans, asking them questions. You know, should I do this? And they'll go, yeah, and then he goes and does it.
I think, and that bit generally comes a bit later in your career, I think. But it's good to start thinking about it. I think just being really active in terms of replying to comments and things like that, just being really like approachable and open, and even on the individual level, when you see someone commenting and like making sure you reply to that, you just build that closeness. And then when you get to a certain size and scale, you can look to go to sort of more dark web stuff like Discord and kind of take them away out of social. Even email lists, a bit old school, but like I see artists build good email lists and write really good personal emails. That feels more closed off, more intimate. But I think it's a journey to get to that point.
I think can do email when you're small, because like if you're giving away free downloads and you're building a database and you're regularly talking to them and going, hey gang, I've got another freebie for you. Go and grab it now. Reply to the email and let me know what you think, and then you're having that one-to-one connection.
Get your 10 best friends in a WhatsApp group and start there.
There you go, that's a good one. Yeah.
Giving away guest list, meeting the people, talk to them, involve them in a project.
All right, we're a bit short of time.
I need to bounce across town.
So you had a question, I think? No, okay, so you get the last question.
I'm quite new at Instagram and I don't have that many followers, but sometimes I actually get messages from people that I see that are scam. And the question is how many details should I tell about myself? Because the people want to learn to know me, who I am, so I have to be personal in a kind of way, but where's the border?
I guess as individual as well, like none of my children are not on Instagram. Like I keep lots of personal stuff out. I will share things that I'm doing, but not, nothing that reveals too much. I definitely think keep your barrier, especially as artists. Like as you're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like keeping that space that's your space and you. And again, what you feel comfortable, what you feel healthy, and what's going to keep it mentally healthy for you as well.
It's a Norwegian artist named Tix, and when I kind of like his stuff, then he always kind of sent me a message and he becomes a new follower of mine. So sometimes I had 10 followers only from him. And then he starts to ask me questions, quite a personal questions. And I'm not always sure if that's actually him or a scam.
It could be a bot-driven thing. Like it could be a bot-driven thing that if you're responding, that could be he could have bots set up that responds to you to try and gauge engagement.
Yes.
But it could be a scam thing. Like again, protect yourself. Like don't give too much information that anything you're not willing to give anyone. Like if I come up to you in the street and ask you the same questions, would you tell me? Then you don't do it online.
All right, thank you guys. Big applause to the experts up here.